Well, hello, everyone. This is your host of the Finding Your Financial Voice podcast, Dr. Anita R Johnson. And I'm excited about our interview today. We're going to be actually really talking about some real good information. But I'm going to thank our listeners for listening. And you can get your podcast, you can get this podcast on Spotify, iHeart, your pad, your pod, your Apple, all of those, and make sure that you share and you like the podcast. Share it with others because this is such great information that we have here on Finding Your Financial Voice with myself, Dr. Johnson. We have a special guest in the house, and she's a dear friend of mine as well as a very knowledgeable person about what's going on in her world. And we're going to bring her world and my world, the financial world, together today. So I want to interview Anna Kato. Am I pronouncing it right?
Kato.
Kato.
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna introduce. So that's who she is, and she has some California teaching credentials, standard teaching credentials, elementary live bilingual education, Spanish. Ooh, love it. Counseling and psychology, pupil personnel services, and administrative services, preliminary, and she has so many other things. The one thing I like about, or I like everything about her, of course, but one that we're going to be talking about today is she's a certified clinical hypnotherapist.
I am.
Wow. Wow. And
Yeah.
and we're going to be talking about that and how that affects your money mindset. And thanks for coming to the show, Dr. Anna. Should I call you Dr. Anna? Thanks for coming to the show. I want to give everybody their props when they go down that journey because that journey is not an easy journey to go down, no matter how long ago you went down it. How are you today?
Well, Anita, thank you so much. And Dr. Anita and Dr. Johnson, I mean, we can celebrate our accomplishments. Please call me Anna. And I am quite at ease with my first name, in part because I really value my degrees and I'm a person. You know, I'm a person like my clients. So,
Right.
it's important to me to, oh gosh, Anita, you're helping me to think already. I just think humility is important and our
Mm.
degrees are important. And I want to congratulate you on yours too,
Oh, thank
because you
you.
just finished and mine was about 20 years ago. But it allowed me to do some wonderful things before I got my hypnotherapy certification. It allowed me to teach student teachers, which I loved. And, you know, I taught both at UC Davis and Sac State, and that kind of work I could build on um, because I had a background in counseling
Mm.
as well as teaching. And so that sort of paved the way for me to do work in hypnotherapy, which I really enjoy.
Great.
So I got to hypnotherapy after I retired from my work as an educator. And I'm delighted to know you. So for our listeners, um, can I call you Dr. Anita? Would that
Yes,
be okay?
of
How we
course.
address each other is important.
Yes.
But for the listeners, we met each other because where our offices are in the same building. And
Hmm.
um, it's just always a pleasure to see you, Dr. Anita, in the hallway and to knock on your door and, you know, visit and talk about our respective work.
Yes, definitely. I agree. I totally agree with you. Totally. And as you and I were talking about setting this podcast up, we just talked about how can we partner these two, hypnotherapy and financial therapy, together, which I definitely think that it's something that definitely can be, definitely is, together, because we're talking about holistic, and I'm always talking about holistic behaviors that affect our money. And so,
Uh-huh.
tell me a little bit about what you do, generally speaking, and then we'll get into how this can help in the financial realm.
Sure. So, what I do is work in a way that that supports people's well-being. And as a clinical hypnotherapist, I am certified through the American Council of Hypnotist Examiners, which means I studied for a minimum of 200 hours. I took a written exam. I had supervised in-person practice, and every other year I have to renew my certification with 30 hours of continuing education credits. That's different. In the United States, hypnotherapy um, isn't a license if you don't hold a license as a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a nurse or a counselor. And although I have a doctorate in education with an emphasis in counseling and a master's in counseling with an emphasis in school counseling, I don't hold a license. So certification was really important to me, and that provides me with liability insurance, as well as tells my clients that I have extensive preparation and that I choose and am required by my certifying organization to renew my certification, as I just said. So what I do is what I'll tell you what I don't do first. I don't diagnose or treat or prescribe. I am not a physician. I'm not in medicine, but I do support, as I said, well-being. So the first thing for people to know, perhaps, is that um, when hypnosis, in a state of hypnosis, people engage their subconscious facet of their brain. And I like the definition of that current researcher, whose name is Yves Aguirre, who's French, writes the basal ganglia is the main physiological hub of the brain. And so that part of our brain controls our autonomic nervous system. So how we breathe, um, just the things that we take for granted really every day. And what we can do with our subconscious um, facet of our brain is work together with a client and a hypnotherapist to change responses that people may find challenging, to improve physical performance. And listeners may be familiar with sports figures who use hypnosis to get better at football or golf or tennis, any sport. Um, I worked with a client one time who wanted to learn sign language more effectively and have more facility with her hands, and found hypnosis very useful in that regard.
Mm,
Um, so, of course, we can also gain insight. We can gain confidence. And I say we because, I'll tell you in a minute how I've used hypnotherapy for myself with a hypnotherapist. We can change our negative responses to a more positive outlook. And the way in which I work with clients is called person-centered hypnotherapy. So there are no formulas. There are techniques and methods which I can use pertinent to each person's needs. But I have to work with what the person brings
mhm,
and build on a person's strengths. And so people, of course, can face challenges and acknowledge challenges in their lives. And then we build on those strengths. So I do see hypnotherapy as a partnership with my client. And what happens with the subconscious, I recently read an article in Psychology Today, and Dr. Anita, I didn't ask you this before, but can you send, can you include on your podcast information about where to find an article in Psychology Today?
oh yes.
You
Yes.
can do that?
Yeah,
Okay, so
because
I can,
yeah, definitely.
oh,
We'll definitely you can send that to me and I'll definitely put it up
Okay, I
as
can.
we move forward on people trying to find out where you are if they if they desire to use
Yeah,
your services. Yes,
this
yes.
is a very clear article about hypnosis and hypnotherapy in the 2021 December issue of Psychology Today. And one of the things that I enjoyed reading was just this perspective that we and clients can actually talk to our subconscious. And that's how hypnotherapy works. A
Mm,
client is in a very focused state of attention. Some say a hypnotherapeutic trance. Some people keep their eyes open, some people close their eyes. Most of my clients close their eyes and relax. And then I invite clients, because this is the way I like to work. Hypnotherapists have different styles. And but I like to invite clients into a place that they find peaceful. So it can be a real place, an imaginary place, but to see it as and experience it as vividly as possible. And
mm,
that's where we start so that people feel confident. Some examples, some of my clients actually have enjoyed sitting by a creek or a pond or a river and actually start swimming.
mm.
And some of them then rest on a boulder. Some of them talk while they're swimming or floating. Some of them like to be inside, some outside. But a place of peace. And then tell them that they can invite anyone they choose. And it could be an animal, favorite animal, it could even be a plant, could be anything that people choose. Some people feel safer in a place inside. But and then we begin with whatever they've brought to me, and could be wanting to get better at doing something. It could be building confidence. It could be releasing, um, something that accompanies challenges, which might be feelings of fearfulness or feelings of anxiety. But whatever the person,
Hmm.
and I say person, not patient, because in hypnotherapy, we don't follow what traditionally is called the medical model or of illness. We follow well-being, the path of well-being, the work of well-being. So just say person or client, and then we begin.
So if a person for how would you interact with a person that comes to you with a special need as uh, I need to do something with my finances because they're out of control. And
Yeah.
every time I set up a financial spending plan or I set up to pay my debt off, I end up back in debt or I can't really create a financial spending plan. And I want to be able to do this, but I feel like I need
Hmm.
an extra push to help me do that. And so how would you approach that situation? And I also want to make sure that with the listeners to make sure that you check out Anna's information and I'm sure she's gonna look her up and I'm sure she's gonna give us where we can contact her as well at the end of the interview so that you will be making the right decision to use your services, use her services. So we want to make sure that you do that, do your research to make sure and be on this program, be on this podcast. Now, and I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor to how would someone you know go about how would you address that issue with them?
Well, we would first of all talk a little bit, and I would talk with them at first, probably on the phone, free of charge for 20 minutes or so, just to let them get to know me a little bit and for me to get to know their reasons for seeking hypnotherapy, to see if they would like to work with me because as I said, each hypnotherapist, like a therapist, a standard, talk therapist, has their own style.
Hmm.
And if they feel comfortable with me on the phone, then we would schedule an appointment, and it might be Zoom, it might be in person. And then I would talk with them more to find out what it is. If they say to me, I've just been working on these plans, but I can't stick to them. In hypnosis, I might invite them, first of all, to be in a safe place and to look around and to begin to think about, well, what sorts of plans have I made? And then what might be getting in my way?
Mm,
And the root cause might be something, from earlier in life, from work. How do they feel about money? Um, are they looking forward to, do they have enough money for one thing?
mhm,
Then, what is it that they want to achieve? And if the plan is to pay off bills, maybe there's a root cause of something about being afraid of paying bills on time,
mm,
thinking they can't do it. Maybe, it could be as straightforward as not knowing how to pay off bills, not knowing how to budget. And if that comes up, it might be supporting, learning the steps of budgeting while in hypnosis. And then I would be possibly recording those steps, having them tell me what they do, what those steps are. It could be that straightforward. And then having them come back, having them practice while in hypnosis, um, you know, and, or it could be, can I use myself? I'm going to use myself as an
mhm.
example.
Okay.
Something I said to you, Dr. Anita,
Mhm.
because I'm learning from you, listeners. I've learned a lot from Dr. Anita. Uh, I kind of realized this before, but a few weeks ago, I said to you that I realized that I was afraid to have wealth. And
Mm,
that
right.
means
Mhm,
that, uh, that money, when I was a kid, money was always in short supply, and saving it was a real task. And thinking in an either or way, either I could do this or I could do this, but I couldn't do both. And so and then I was afraid that, wealth might separate me from family or from friends and then we got into, the stratification of social class and that kind of thing related to finance. So, um, although I'm not so afraid of that anymore. And I have enough and I have a little more than enough now. But if I were to go to a hypnotherapist, probably what would come up is, childhood experiences with money and this fear that I would want to release, and this ability, and through hypnotherapy, I could do that. And then I could strengthen my confidence as an adult to learn how to manage money so that I could build toward having enough and maybe more, and realistically how to do that. I mean, it has to be with relationship to money, it has to be, I believe, even in hypnosis, it has to be realistic, Dr. Anita. It's
mhm.
not, I'm just going to get wealthy, you know.
Right, right.
But,
Yes,
but
exactly.
how, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
how is
definitely.
that? Yeah, how is that going to happen? So what are the obstacles to that?
Mhm,
Maybe, are there fears? Are there just realistic challenges? And how could hypnotherapy help you address those realistic challenges? And as I say, we could practice that in hypnosis, and then there'd probably be some homework, related to budgeting. And and then coming back and how's it going?
mm,
In hypnosis, what's helpful, what's not helpful. And something that I've found that is probably related to this idea of financial stability, of
mhm,
financial well-being, is self-acceptance.
mm,
Sometimes clients say to me, I don't deserve it. And that's especially possibly for women, that's more common than it is for men, but
mhm,
it doesn't need to be gender specific. Could be anybody who doesn't feel deserving of, financial stability. And I'm not good enough. People have belittled me, you know, I'm never going to amount to it. I'm never going to amount to anything. And those sorts of obstacles that are placed in somebody's path can change
Hmm.
because people can begin to see through hypnotherapy, through hypnosis, perceive themselves as worthy and competent and capable and able, to manage money well and can benefit, from working with you to find out the steps for doing that. So, what I would do if somebody came to me, Dr. Anita, and I knew they were seeing you as well, I'd need their permission, and possibly the three of us would meet, but I would want their permission to
Right,
talk to you to find out how you're helping them so I can build on what you're doing to help them too.
right,
So,
right.
I hope, can you think of other examples that might be useful, different from what I've said?
I think all of those are valid examples, especially when it comes, you got your obstacles, which a lot of times is fear, and a lot of fear when it comes to finances. There's a lot of fear around women
Uh-huh.
who do that, and the words "I don't deserve" or "I'm not good enough" is always is a step that the client or customer has to deal with in themselves, and also making realistic changes,
Yeah.
because one of the things that maybe in your discussion with them, they I've tried it so many times, I've done it so many times that it's never coming. I just give up. And so what happens is, I tell my clients that you've been doing this same thing for so many years, and it's going to take a while for you to improve your habits, because we
Yeah.
have to replace a habit with a good habit, and it takes a little while to replace it. And even when you replace it with a good habit, you can always revert back to the old habit. And I think that might be where you will come in and say, "Hey, let's do this
Yes.
thing here, and let's see what that why are you still hitting this one particular habit all the time? Is it something in your past and so forth?" So is that
Yes.
something that you think maybe probably can
Oh, yeah.
happen in your practice?
Oh, yes. And, you know, um, the subconscious mind is very creative,
Hmm.
very useful, very practical as well. And so there are practical steps to changing habits. And
Hmm.
in hypnotherapy, the suggestions that together the client I provide during hypnosis,
Hmm.
because in hypnosis, the subconscious mind is listening very closely and
Hmm.
delighted to find new ways of doing things.
Hmm. Hmm.
The word that is in hypnotherapy is anchor. We would anchor those new behaviors and give suggestions to support them and take them step by step.
Hmm.
Because when we're learning something new,
Hmm.
it's important to to practice the steps. And so symbols can be part of hypnotherapy in a very helpful way. When
Hmm.
I think of, just for myself, when I think of practicing new things or changing my behavior or doing something that's hard, I personally, and some of my clients have found this image or this metaphor helpful. The tortoise, that
Mm, mm,
step by step by step. And so images can be useful. Practice while in hypnotherapy can be useful. And I can learn about how people how they perceive in the world, how they learn in the world. Are they pretty visual? Can we use images like the tortoise?
hmm.
If
Oh,
they're
yeah.
active people, they could actually take steps like a tortoise one foot in front of the other. And there's humor in that too, if they think that's humorous, so that they can remember that when it comes
Mhm,
time to,
mhm,
if they, one thing again, I'll use myself as an example. When I was younger, and say in my 20s,
younger.
and younger in my 20s, and I didn't, I did what a lot of people do. I was starting a career. If I needed clothing or I needed gas and I didn't have the cash, I would charge. And my charge
Mhm,
card got too big.
mhm.
Then when I realized that the interest rate was horrible and I couldn't pay it off every month, it took a long time
Yep.
to pay
Mhm,
it off. And so, it was my mom who helped me take a look at my behavior and see new ways of thinking about my money,
mhm.
so that I didn't always have to charge.
Right,
But,
right.
so I'm at a place in my life where I can pay off cards. But for me, that was a horrible time because I was so in debt that it seemed insurmountable. And I suspect that's the case for lots of people. And so
Right.
learning new
Yeah.
behaviors little by little.
Yeah.
Uh,
You just have to bite the elephant a
you
small
do,
piece at a time.
you
Mm.
do.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
that sounds trite in a way, like, yeah, I know that. But having support and support within yourself that hypnotherapy gives you, and
Mm. Okay.
uh, can just be so helpful. And then the hypnotherapist is like your cheerleader, your supporter, and is not going to criticize you
Hmm.
for when if a client were to say to me, "Wow, I didn't do so well this week." Well, it's like, let's go into your focused state of relaxation, into hypnosis, and start again and build on. Let's find, you made progress. So I'm not going to say to you, "Well, how come? What'd you do wrong?" That's not what hypnotherapy is about. It's like, okay,
Why'd you do that, old mess?
yeah, but instead, let's look at the progress you made, and sometimes clients graph their progress.
Or
Yeah,
uh,
and the
write down
notes.
what triggered you. You know,
Exactly.
what triggered
Yes.
you? What do you think? Is I use a classical example for myself is like one day I bought three pairs of shoes and they two of them were the same color. It's like, okay, so what was wrong with me that day? I had to go back and look at what triggered me. And I
Yeah.
think it's because I hadn't bought any shoes in a while and I finally had some extra money, or if I did have extra money, I
Yeah.
don't think it was extra. It's like I wanted some shoes, period.
Yeah. And and the trigger might even be beyond that. It might be, well, when I was 2 years ago, um I was buying my shoes, at a discount store, and
Right,
now I buy them at, wherever you wanted to buy them in a
right,
high-end
exactly.
store maybe. And
Mhm.
I was so excited about that, I overdid it.
Yeah,
You know?
that's a
And
good way to look at it. That's a great
yeah,
way to look at it. Yeah,
and
definitely.
so in hypnosis though, it would be like imagine using your I don't know what the client would call it, but maybe what um my better judgment.
Mm,
And
mm,
how else am I going to get? It might be, "Oh, okay, I got those. I'm going to keep those, that one pair." But what did I love about those shoes? And where else is that in my life? Maybe it's just not the shoes. Maybe it's finding pleasure in, maybe it's flowers. Maybe it's,
mhm, mm.
one
Color
little,
or something. Mm,
yeah, one color.
mm,
Maybe it's the
mm,
enjoyment of going to the library and picking out the book I really want to read, but I don't want to buy it this time.
mhm,
I'm trying, Dr. Anita, to think about practicality here, but joyful experiences too. Uh,
Okay,
because
all right.
sometimes related to money, we think I have to
Mhm.
deny ourselves completely. And that may not be the case.
Okay,
It might be the client's need to be practical with money and find ways to spend wisely, but
right.
happiness and joy and delight in other parts of life that
Mm-hmm.
they hadn't thought about before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, boy, I want to make sure that the listeners know that you have a special ad in our upcoming October issue of Affluence Financial Fitness for Women, which I am the publisher of as well. And so, if you have not gotten your magazine just yet and you would like, you could either have a downloadable one or you can actually get a printed one. And it's called Affluence Financial Fitness for Women. I would suggest that you go Google it. You can get it on MagCloud. We have a MailChimp, or you can email me at Anita Financial Behaviorist, all one word, at gmail.com, and we will send you a link out for you to purchase the magazine. You could, like I said, you could do the digital one or you can do a printed copy, and we're looking for if anyone's out there that wants to be a distributor or a salesperson. So we are looking for both of those individuals to distribute our magazine as well in your offices. So if you have an office where people are still coming in, because I know today we in this today society 2019 showed us that we could work from home now. But if you are in an office space and you would like to have that magazine, you are welcome to email us, call us at 916-601-0999 and order you up some magazines, and you will see Anna's uh, things in there. You will see her ad in there. And she has a very beautiful ad, and it has all her connections there. You can connect with her. And she would love that. She loves that. And you could actually work with people not in your straight city, but you can work with people all over the country because we have Zoom now. We could do that now, right, Anna?
We can, and hypnotherapy is successful on Zoom. During COVID, I saw people on Zoom because it was necessary. But one thing I want to add, Dr. Anita, is when people leave a hypnotherapy session, generally they feel really good, and I enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
when I work with people in person, there's a smile. People leave energized, and they just do. Hypnotherapy is a very natural state, and the word joy comes to mind, and
Mm-hmm.
happiness, and people face challenges,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and their whole beings with capacity for change, and um, it's a really one hypnotherapy is a wonderful experience. And as I indicated, I see hypnotherapists myself for my own well-being, because I face challenges too. And it's
Right,
something
right.
that
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy doing and I really believe in.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
Then
Yeah,
I just
we all do. We all have someone we need to speak to about, because we all go through things, and so it's really important that we have someone to talk to for our own mental and well-being. Definitely that. Well, and
Yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and ask you, even though you have the ad in the magazine, I'm going to go ahead and ask you if you would love to give the listening audience some ways to contact you.
sure. My website is called Wise Raven Hypnotherapy. And it's called Wise Raven because those birds are incredible. They have a sense
Mm,
of humor. They're they have memory, they make tools, they're just delightful.
mm.
So Wise Raven Hypnotherapy. And this is pretty funny, listeners, but I don't have my business phone number in front of me. Um, and we can put it in the we can put it
Is it
in,
a 220 number?
we can, and we can, but Wise Raven Hypnotherapy is my website. And you can print it if you're willing, Dr. Anita, we can just put it there. Is that okay?
Oh, sure. It is
Yeah.
it 220? Is it 916-220?
It isn't, but that go for
Oh,
that.
okay. Okay.
That,
I'm
you know
sorry.
what?
Okay.
That is just fine. My cell number is 530 220-9203. There's a different number on my website with an answering service.
Okay.
But
Okay.
listeners, don't
Well,
worry
that's
about it.
fine.
If
Yeah.
you want to
Either
call me,
way.
yeah, you just call me.
Either way, they'll get
Or
into. Yeah.
yeah, or text. Text
Yeah.
is fine
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I love what you are doing and love the excitement that you have with this,
Well,
with what
thanks,
you're
Dr.
doing,
Anita.
and
And it,
how we both can, how what I do and what you do actually overlaps a lot because like we're talking about fear, realistic changes, well-being. Those are all the things that I speak to my clients about, along with making realistic goals, financial goals for themselves. And
yeah,
that's something that you could talk to them about it as you are, or you are speaking with them.
yeah.
Definitely.
Well, hypnotherapy would support those goals.
Fan-
That's how it
Definitely.
would work. And before we close, I just want to thank you so much for the opportunity to be on this podcast with you, and then just the pleasure in knowing you. And it's a mutual admiration to say, because Dr. Anita, I appreciate your love of your work and your enthusiasm for it, and your dedication to it and your knowledge. And as I've said, listeners, I have learned from you already,
Oh
Dr.
gosh.
Anita. So, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm loving. I love the conversation, and to the listeners, make sure you get the Florence Financial Fitness for Women digital magazine, and you will be able to see Anna's ad there. And if you did not get the information before about her contact, you can actually go to the ad, or you can just rewind, and if you record it, just rewind and go back and listen to it again. So thank you again, Anna, for being here on Finding Your Financial Voice podcast with myself, your host, Dr. Anita. And next time we'll have another special guest on talking about some very important issues about finances. So thank you so much, and thank you for listening.